Oh, hello, yes. Well, good grief. I don't know where I am anymore. Somewhere in the week. Anyway, yes. Yes. Had a couple of people, well, over about the last 24, 48 hours, decided to quote, that there George Orwell at me, just to prove that they were definitely right about things. Love it when people do that, because everybody knows what an anti-communist George Orwell was, or well, something or other. Still, anyway, I definitely stood corrected by that. Anyway, yes. The thing, of course, about George Orwell is that he was very interested in the notion of, double and newspeak, this sensation that the language is ultimately very corrupted on the behalf of politics, which we can definitely see with us at the moment. I'm reminded of, I don't know, over a year ago when the Daily Mail described a group of three people as a mob. Yes, there was an online mob and they quoted three people in the text. And I was thinking, I think three is the lowest possible number you can have for a mob. There's a couple, there's one, there's two, there's a couple, and then I don't know, maybe at best there's three as a crowd? But I don't think it's quite a mob. I don't know, you'd need six really for that, wouldn't you? Yeah. Anyway, it's not a mob, is it? Three people, it's not a mob. Still, it didn't matter because, of course, it's an online mob, and everybody knows that any comments online are called by a mob, any more than one, according to the Daily Mail. And the Daily Telegraph itself, my favourite paper, what I subscribe to, mainly so you don't have to, is full of this kind of stuff. And it's very much newspeak in the sense of words take on different meanings, but it's also doublespeak in the sense that certain situations mean that those words have their original meaning. So let's have a quick look at this, which was one of the big news stories from yesterday, from Matthew Lynn. Yes, Rayner's growing property empire shows breathtaking hypocrisy. It's not a good look as the Labour government demonises landlords and second home owners. And to a certain extent, I would agree with that. However, I would take exception with the word empire, because empire suggests a large tract of land which is used or abused one way or another for its economic resources, whereas Angela Rayner has three properties what she's going to live in, which I don't think meets the qualifying standard for an empire. Yeah, if you have 15 properties that you rent out, I'd give you that as a property empire. But I think an MP with more than two houses and under four isn't an empire, because of course, and here's where the multiple double standards hypocrisy comes in, there are multiple MPs, many of whom the Daily Telegraph really, really likes, who own a great deal more than three properties. Now, should MPs own more than two properties? Well, if you live in London, you're going to need somewhere to stay, and there's all that stuff, and you can argue the toss till the cows come home. I don't care about expenses, but basically, pretty much all MPs have, when as an MP, two properties they stay in. Okay, now Angela Rayner. Basically, the reason why the Daily Telegraph feels fine and other news outlets feel fine about printing this stuff is because Angela Rayner is a working class woman. Under given different circumstances, and if she had a different politics, she would be a rising entrepreneurial star. However, again, we don't use that language because boo hiss, it's a socialist, we don't like her. But undoubtedly, one way or another, you have to accept that she's a phenomenally successful woman. Yeah? It's end of. Yeah, in a way that loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of other MPs in our current parliament and most of the former ones throughout my lifetime haven't been. Which brings me to this interesting one, which really shouted at me yesterday and had me metaphorically or otherwise falling around on the floor, which is in their property buying and selling section, yes, by Alexandra Goss. I like to feel that's gross, but it's just goss. No. And it's this which I'm going to unpack somewhat, because it does have that remarkable level of hypocrisy and whiff of middle class victimhood about it, which really I find intriguing. Anyway, the reality of being an expat, people don't talk about how difficult it is to come home. Relinquishing the perks of life abroad is harder than many returning families expect. Yes, and here we see Nick and his husband Remy, Yeah, there we go. They haven't got pink hair, so they're morally acceptable, those two. You can see it's a very mixed family. They've got cats and a dog. Well, cat and a dog. Yeah. Anyway, they moved back from, well, somewhere, I don't really care. And apparently, it's quite hard one way or another. You can read the article, link down below, inevitably. And apparently there's loads of paperwork because, like, if you've got a French driving licence, you might need to change it. And apparently things have changed in the UK from what people remember because, that's the way it works sometimes. Anyway, it does go into quite a lot of people from the UAE. So let's do a bit of a dive in. Hang on a second. As well as employment, education and family ties, recent pull factors prompting expats to return include Brexit, the memories of strict COVID lockdowns, and for those who moved there, the changes in Hong Kong since China tightened its grip on the region. There's also an increase in British expats returning from America. They're driven by political uncertainty. Trump is definitely a factor, says Samantha Scott White of Cotswold, buying agent. Yes. And there you can see the kind of mixed messages you might be getting from the Daily Telegraph, because it's basically saying a lot of people are coming back, especially from the States, because of the nasty regime that's out there. But we mustn't actually mention that. And there are other, factors which might well bring people back, not necessarily to the Cotswolds. Might come on to that. But yeah, people want to come back. And as the Telegraph points out, about 2/3 of expats do, because let's face it, you don't want to live in Dubai or anywhere like that. I was contemplating about 10 years ago going out to the Near East and just grabbing the money for a few years, but I just couldn't face the notion of living in the UAE. Basically, just couldn't face it. I did apply for a couple of jobs and I didn't want to go. I just decided, no, it's not for me. No, just wouldn't want that level of autocratic regime. Lots of the people here do sort of point out about how lovely it is to have maids, but it's a bit more than that. So let's have a look. Moving away from the comparative safety of Dubai was also a shock. I could leave my bag on a cafe table and it would still be there 3 hours later, while the idea of locking the front door of your apartment wasn't even a thing, she says. Yes, because it's an autocratic regime where you get bits of you cut off, basically, if you do that. Anyway, then there was the general adjustment to a less convenient, way of life. The convenience, the cleanliness, the amazing food, the shopping. Dubai is a city built to make life seamless, she says. There, if you want something, you can usually have it in minutes. One night, my daughter woke up coughing at 2 a.m. and within 15 minutes of WhatsApping a pharmacy, we had organic, toddler-safe cough syrup at our door. Now, organic, toddler-safe cod syrup. I want you to contemplate that particular bit of the sentence, because let's face it, in any other context, almost every single news outlet in the UK would be laughing and pointing at, the poncy middle class types coming out with such things. They're the only people in the world that are that divorced from reality that organic toddler syrup is the only thing that Jemima can have. Yes, if it was a Just Stop Oil protester and the Daily Telegraph discovered that, or the Daily Mail discovered that, or Mike from Talk TV discovered that, they'd still be talking about it in a year's time. Yeah, because there are certain rules. You're allowed to be twee and fey and middle class, provided you're Daily Telegraph approved. You can be a gay couple, but you mustn't have pink hair. And you can come back from America because you don't like the politics, but we won't mention it. Anyway, let's come on to the raison d'etre of why I'm here, if you like. Many are often surprised at how expensive the Cotswolds are, says Percy Clark of estate agents Chartwell Noble, who's seen increasing interest in the area from returning expats, notably from the Middle East, parts of Asia and the US. Typically, they're professionals such as lawyers, tech executives, and those in finance in their 30s to early 50s with young families. They're looking for a location with easy access to London and good schools. Oh yeah, that's a Daily Telegraph thing, isn't it? Good schools. Moving back to the Cotswolds 2 years ago, after 7 years of living in a rural village in Brittany, Nicholas Clark and his husband knew they wouldn't be able to get anything like the large house with cottages, a barn and 2 hectares of land they bought in France for €100,000 before renovation costs. Yes, moving back to the Cotswolds is so often a shock, as I'm sure you and I realise. Oh dear God, indeed. But you'll notice that a lot of this, which kind of brushes over it, is that people cannot go to various places, yeah? You can't move. If you moved to the EU before Brexit, you now basically have to come back here. And all of these people who are professional middle class types suddenly have seen their world due to Brexit enormously shrink because of all the rules that are now placed on them. So coming back, not that millionaire flight you notice, but coming back is an increasingly good prospect for them, which I'm happy about because, I'm the bloke standing here in front of, the Union flag. I don't need to go outside and paint flags on things. Man, I just live with it. Yes, but these people's lives have been truncated by all of those policies that those lovely, lovely people at the Daily Telegraph loves to triumph. Yeah, haven't they? Anyway... Yes, it's a bit of a culture shock coming back to the Cotswolds. But yeah, I just thought that was just hilarious in its own right. The Daily Telegraph often does these kind of things. You may recall the fictitious family who were having to cut back on their 5 holidays abroad because their children's VAT on schools had gone up. Yeah. The Daily Telegraph has no sense of its readership in real terms, and I don't know. If it wants to survive as a publication, as and when it's bought by somebody else, I think it's going to have to kind of move very much more with the times. I don't know how much longer gay married professional couples will put up with the notion that they have to be as right-wing as the Daily Telegraph pretends that they should be. And if nothing else, it might mean that there's one less media outlet for Jake Simmons one way or another, which, dear God, can only be a good thing. Yes. Anyway, leaving all that aside, do enjoy your non-hypocrisy day if you can do, and remember there's rules for them and rules for the rest of us. And if you're working class, the one thing you mustn't be is uppity. You mustn't be above your station. It's fine for other people to go to the Cotswolds, but by God, not Angela Rayner, because after all, she isn't an entrepreneur, even with a property empire. Maybe they'll get a mob of 3 people after her, eh? Do enjoy.